All right, I want to see what happened with Apple WWDC. If you guys have been following my investing, then you know this was important. This is a big day. And then we're gonna see how Apple stock is doing. So let's check this out.
Welcome to Apple Park, and welcome to WWDC.
Our version numbers across all our platforms. Our releases for the fall that will power us through the coming year, 2026, will be version 26.
Nice.
We've crafted app icons from liquid glass.
Finally, because it's been so confusing, bro. Like, their releases are always so confusing.
It makes them feel fresh while keeping them instantly identifiable. And it allows them to adapt. Whether you use dark mode or one of our entirely new styles, like our all clear look. Let's jump back to the lock screen so you can see how we've made wallpapers more dynamic. I'll switch to my photo shuffle wallpaper and watch as I switch images. The time now fluidly adapts to the available space.
We've also added new features to help keep you connected while driving, like a compact design when you get a call, so you can still see what's on the screen, like your upcoming directions, along with tapbacks and pinned conversations in messages. iOS 26 also gives you widgets in CarPlay. They're quick and glanceable ways to get information, which is perfect while driving, as well as live activities, so you can stay on top of what's important to you, like a friend's flight status, all done in a way to help you stay focused on the road. CarPlay Ultra lets you choose the layout and design of the most important information for you, and adds vehicle controls for features like the radio and climate right in the CarPlay experience.
This year, we're giving you an exciting new way to bring personality to those shared spaces with backgrounds. When you select a background, it appears for everyone in the conversation to enjoy. You have a variety of dynamic built-in backgrounds to choose from, or select one of your own photos. And with Apple Intelligence, you can even generate your own backgrounds in Image Playground. Next, let's talk about group chats. Group chats are home to so many age-old questions, like, what weekend is everyone free? Instead of dealing with a flurry of responses, we're introducing a delightful way to visualize what the people want with polls. You can create a poll for anything. And with Apple Intelligence, messages can detect when a poll might come in handy and suggest one. Like if someone asks, where should we stay for our annual trip? And when your more particular friends don't like the options, anyone in the group can contribute new ideas. Then watch as the votes roll in live.
For instance, in Messages, live translation can automatically translate text for you. So if you're making plans with some new friends while studying abroad, your message can be translated as you type and delivered in their preferred language. And when they respond, each text can be instantly translated for you.
That's cool.
When you're catching up on FaceTime, you can follow along with translated live captions while you continue to hear your grandmother's voice.
Écoute ma chérie, ajoute une pincée de vanille et de l'eau de fleur d'oranger à la pâte. C'est ça mon secret.
Oh, right. Yes.
When you're on a phone call, your words are translated as you talk, and the translation is spoken out loud for the call recipient.
Hi. Are you available to cater a wedding on December 6th?
Hallo, sind Sie für eine Hochzeit am 6. Dezember verfügbar?
This year, the Smart Stack improves its prediction algorithm by fusing on-device data, like points of interest, location, and more, and trends from your daily routine, so it can accurately predict features that could be immediately useful to you. So when you walk into your gym for that regular morning session, a Smart Stack hint will subtly appear. And when you open the Smart Stack, a widget will be ready for you to start your workout. Or when Apple Watch detects that you're in a remote location with no connectivity, a hint will appear to start backtrack to support you while you're off the grid. We're also making Apple Watch more proactive with enhancements to notifications. You might use silent mode to avoid receiving a loud alert at an inopportune moment, like that. But now, Apple Watch can interpret the ambient noise in your environment and automatically adjust the volume of incoming calls and notifications. Much better.
As you settle into a show like Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV+, you'll immediately notice how playback controls refract the content underneath, beautifully complementing the action without distracting from the story. This unobtrusive design carries through the control center.
That's so
when you're setting a sleep timer, the video still shines through. And as you browse, you'll see a bold new look. with beautiful cinematic poster art, making it fun and easy to explore all your favorite shows and movies.
We're bringing live activities to Mac. So if you've ordered Uber Eats on your iPhone, the live activity also appears in the menu bar. And when you click, the app opens in iPhone mirroring, so you can take action directly on your Mac. We're also enhancing the calling experience by bringing the Phone app to Mac. You can conveniently access your familiar content, like recents, contacts, and voicemail, synced from iPhone, and easily make a call with just a click. Incoming calls look beautiful on the bigger screen, featuring stunning contact posters of your friends and family. And the Phone app on Mac includes all the great updates we talked about earlier, like Hold Assist, call screening, and live translation.
And now, Spotlight is getting its biggest update ever. To start, Spotlight is becoming the fastest way to browse your content on Mac. It puts your most relevant files within easy reach, including intelligent suggestions based on your routines or what you're currently working on. You can also see all your apps, and thanks to iPhone mirroring, you can even launch apps that you only have on your iPhone, like Headspace. We're also introducing system and app actions in Spotlight. You can take hundreds of actions, from creating an event to starting an audio recording, or even playing a podcast. And you can do this no matter what app you're currently working in. You can even fill out parameters for an action. Say you want to send an email. You can write the message, set the recipient, and add a subject, all without lifting your hands off the keyboard.
Let's start with some of the amazing new spatial experiences coming to VisionOS, like widgets. Users love widgets. They offer personalized and useful information at a glance. In VisionOS, they become spatial, integrating seamlessly into your space. And they are persistent, staying right where you place them. They're also customizable. Frame width, color, and depth can all be personalized to your liking. VisionOS now has beautiful new widgets like clock, with distinctive and exquisitely detailed clock face designs, weather that adapts to today's forecast, music for quick access to your favorite tunes, and photos, which can transform a stunning panorama into a window to another time or place.
But now I also have this grab handle in the bottom right to fluidly resize apps into windows. If I previously resized apps, when I open them again, they open back in the exact same size and position, and I can place them just where I want them. This is designed to work great with touch or with a trackpad. And now I also have a pointer that's more precise and responsive. When I use it to hover over these new buttons in the top left, they expand into familiar controls. I can use these to close or minimize my windows. And a tap on their app icon brings them right back. Another way I can arrange my windows is with tiling. Since this is designed for the unique qualities of iPad, I can simply flick windows towards the edges to tile.
Our new OS releases will be available as developer betas today.
I don't know.
Event. So how do you interpret a decline of 1.2%, Guy?
The bar was extraordinarily high last.
So it dropped by 1.2%. It was underwhelming. People wanted more AI.
Last event, this time last year, we came out after the show. We were not impressed. Gene Munster was, and on the next couple days, he was right to be. You're right to point out the bar was, I think, very low this time, but I don't even think they got up over that low bar. Now, at $200, wherever it's trading, what's the trade here? It feels as if the stock has been trending lower. It has not nearly the bounce that some of these other mega cap names did, and I don't think today did anything to help it.
Yeah, I guess the focus is developers, right? And so Steve just mentioned that, and so they don't even have the press really there anymore. They don't have all the fans there. There's nothing there. There's no there. And I think that's probably the big problem here. When you think about the excitement that usually goes into these events is they'll show you the new iOS. They'll kind of surprise you with a couple things. And that will drive an upgrade cycle in the fall when they finally release the phones with the new software. And, they haven't grown iPhone units in the last couple of years because they haven't had a reason to have people come out and do it. And so at the end of the day, I think they should probably be done doing these really cringy videos. Like I watched the whole thing and they're just odd. They take place in this metaverse sort of situation. And, it doesn't give you a lot of confidence that this is a company that's innovating. And, the comparison here is OpenAI. They are shipping a lot of product. They are shipping, innovative product. And you look around and you say to yourself, if they had an operating system, they're going to have a browser soon. You might replace the whole kit and caboodle with what they're doing because they are Apple 20 years ago right now. So, to me, I think it's disappointing. And to Guy's point, the stock closed unchanged last year or down a little bit the day of WWDC, and it rallied 10% in the next 2 days. So I got that wrong. I got the product right, but I got the price action.
Would that happen this time?
I don't know why it would, because the excitement there is that they announced that they were going to partner with OpenAI and that would drive an upgrade cycle in the fall. That's what almost every analyst came out saying the next couple of days.
So, but I mean, the chart, we can talk about that, but as they sit around there in the inner sanctum of Apple with all of their resources, all of their IQ and all of their manpower, what's their plan? I mean, they must be aware that they're missing things, yes? Do they have a plan? Are they trying to cope with these misses like AI and so forth? Or are they just saying, oh, well, see what happens? Well, I don't know, because to me, it's just, of course, I don't know the difference between Apple's chart and Goodyear Tire. It's a bad chart. A bad chart is a bad chart. We know that of all the factors that have ever been studied in markets, relative strength and momentum work more than anything else. This is poor relative strength. It is poor momentum. Its relative performance to the sector peaked almost 3 years ago, and it's not getting better. Good day for the market. Again, Apple down.
If they do have a plan in the inner sanctum of Apple, they have to do a better job at least messaging what this plan is, Tim Seymour. I mean, you as a shareholder, how do you view this event in terms of it not bearing a catalyst? Maybe you didn't think that there would be a catalyst in the first place, and you still believe that Apple is worth owning here, despite the premium, despite a chart that looks as bad as Goodyear Tire, according to the chart master.
Wow. I think I would preach some patience, but Carter's pointed out 3 years of patience, I guess. And the stock also keeps failing at the 20. It's grinding lower. But I don't think there's been any penetration of AI apps. I think more engagement with developers. I think some of the ecosystem around Apple and some of that low double-digit growth on services, which I think the company is going to continue to print at a high margin, is part of why I'm less concerned than others. Doesn't mean I'm not also frustrated. And Carter asked the right question. I mean, what's going on over there? But what we do know is that engaging more developers and having more opportunities for people to use AI apps on the iPhone, and that's how they're going to engage for many people in AI. So to assume that suddenly there's going to be another mechanism to distribute AI to them, I think is crazy. I'm not worried about Johnny Ive, coming out with a brooch or a pin or something Guy's going to wear. I mean, I think it's something that it's actually, that's a little bit of a head fake as to what Apple's problems really are.
I like a good brooch.
You do. You've been known to sport a brooch once in a while.
He says that in a derogatory way. Meanwhile, I don't know why he would say that.
Wait, what was Apple's strategy? So when they put ChatGPT, that thing boomed. AI rollout in China delayed. Man, it's scary out here for Apple.
What Apple's problems really are.
I like a good brooch.
You do. You've been known to sport a brooch once in a while.
He says that in a derogatory way. Meanwhile, I don't know why he would say that.
Nothing wrong with it.
So what is AI's issue?
And Ross, I don't want to poo-poo this. At least if you're not a developer, this was a little bit of a snooze fest, if you will. Here we did get that update here on the liquid glass, and obviously some whittling around the edges when it comes to improving the operating system. What did you make of the event?
I don't even understand why they have these as events when there's so little information actually given to people of any value, and there's actually no real big change that was announced in this event. The main thing that everybody cares about is our Apple devices are dumb. Siri is clueless and doesn't work. And here we are using apps on our Apple phone like Perplexity and OpenAI and others that are just doing wonderful things for us. And Apple isn't even at this party. So what we want to see is Apple taking aggressive steps to redo their entire operating system around AI versus these sort of incremental attempts at making Siri better, and we just didn't get that today, and it's really disappointing.
There's been a lot of reporting, both by Bloomberg as well as the Financial Times and the New York Times, about this idea that Apple did try that, but apparently one of the mistakes, in the words of those reports, was that they tried to basically build upon Siri rather than starting from scratch in the way that some of these other AI companies did. I don't quite understand all the technology behind that, but I am curious if maybe there is an argument to be made for them to just go back to the drawing board, start from scratch, or alternatively, just try to buy someone out.
Yeah, 100%. You know, you can't fix bad technology by adding good technology to bad technology. In fact, what they have to do is start over. And there's many places they can start. One would be maybe just investing in companies like Perplexity and doing what Microsoft did early on, because Copilot has already been integrated into Microsoft systems. And I have to say, a lot of the stuff is really great. You know, it's new, but it's great. Next big thing are glasses. I was testing the Meta glasses and I was super impressed. Like, they've come a long way with these Ray-Bans, and I would actually wear, like, I like Ray-Bans, and like the glasses work really good. And Apple Vision Pro, which was really meant to be like a precursor to what's next, was really kind of a failure for a lot of reasons, mostly because it was just such a big, clunky thing, and they never developed anything good on it to watch. But as we move to the glasses, now we've got Johnny Ive working with OpenAI, and that's what they're working on, is glasses in my mind, and that's the future. So Apple's now falling further and further behind, and not only do they have a threat against the App Store, soon they're going to have a threat that's really going to possibly hurt their phone sales.
But at the same time, Ross, they still have 1 billion phones out there, so they still have 1 billion eyeballs, right? I mean, at some point, there will be something on AI that people like Romain and I will have to spend $5 a month in order to use, and that will be a significant amount of revenue then to Apple, and that is in essence the bull case. Do you not agree in that at all?
No, I don't, because I'm paying my $20 a month to Perplexity, and Apple gets its 30% cut, but I use Perplexity. That's what I use every day instead of Apple or Siri. And, you know, it's almost like laughable. So yeah, they're getting $5 a month right now from Perplexity. So that's the way they're involved with AI. But what's going to happen is they just become a hardware company and a lot less of a software company, and the ecosystem's getting eroded over time. So I love Apple, and I have no plans of getting rid of my device per se. Mm-hmm. But the market pays for growth. It's like, where's the growth? And how are they going to sell more phones? And they haven't made a compelling case to do that.
Okay, so maybe we're not looking at the same kind of growth that we might have expected with like a super cycle, but at 28 times, seems unreasonable?
Well, Apple's typically traded more like 20 times for a very, very long time. And for a long time, when Warren Buffett got involved, it was trading at 16 times. So I get that Apple has a higher multiple, and many of the big cap techs will have higher multiples because there's so few stocks in the stock market to even buy. But, you know, Apple's fully valued. And once again, it's not growing at 25 or 20%, and it might not grow more than 10% annually. So, you know, investors, and I'm a long-term Apple investor, and I love the company, but I'm not going to not be critical of the fact that they're falling behind, and they have all the resources not to fall behind. We've seen them, whether I can go all the way back to the Apple TV that never happened, the Apple car that never happened. Yeah. They missed Netflix. They've missed so many things. It's time for them to invest. And Tim Cook is the most timid CEO in American history, and he's done a great job with what Steve Jobs left him, but he's way out of ideas now.
I'm glad you went there, because when Tim Cook took over, was that back in 2011 or whenever it was, there was a lot of discussion about this idea that he was a great manager, that, you know, he was the guy, he was a supply chain guy, he knew how to manage employees, but he was not kind of that visionary that we ascribed to Steve Jobs for, whether that was true or not. And the idea that here we are, you know, more than a decade later, and there does not, I mean, and you may be correct me if I'm wrong, but is there that visionary somewhere by Tim Cook's side, and maybe do we need that person at the helm of this company?
Well, you know, I think your point is really valid. In fact, if you're looking at where all the young, you know, sort of visionary technology people are going, they're going to work at AI companies where there's opportunity and massive growth, and, you know, they want to make money too. And so they're not attracting the talent to do this, and they're not building the kind of programs or acquiring the talent to do it either. They certainly have the capital to acquire any of these companies and get the talent in-house. But there's nobody sitting by Tim Cook that's that innovative or exciting, and they're all super comfortable, super wealthy, living this like ridiculous life. I mean, you could just tell by the presentation how out of touch they are with what consumers are actually doing. And somebody needs to shake up Apple, and that's why I'm saying it as a long-term. My entire lifetime I've owned Apple, and Steve Jobs would not be happy with these presentations. He would throw this stuff out and call it garbage. He was a tough guy to work for, and that is not what's happening with Tim Cook.
Still talking about Apple.
Novak, he's alongside me once again to help set the stage. It's great to be with you.
Oh, this is before. This was to set the stage. So now we're good. We're not going to watch this. I can find it. There it is.
So Google has released a fast mode for Veo 3. And you know what? I'm just going to let the Yeti tell you.
I can't believe it. Veo 3's fast mode is finally here. It's so good, and it costs less. This is amazing.
So the question, of course, is, does this break the rule of fast, cheap, and good, but you can only pick two? So today we'll dive in for an A/B comparison, plus go over the cost of fast mode, which I think you're going to be pleased with. Plus, I've got an interesting Veo 3 prompt formula and one really big hack that you're definitely going to want to know. So yeah, without much fanfare, and sort of ironically, after Google released the Veo 3 API, well, just about everywhere, they stealth dropped a fast mode. I will say that there's not much technical information out there available on it right now, but I can tell you that it does generate audio, and I mean, it does so, as the name implies, quickly. But the real seller here is, of course, the cost, and we are going to take a look at that in just a second. But first, let's see if it's worth your time. This morning, I did crib up an ode to one of my favorite TV shows, Twin Peaks. Let's see how fast mode does.
This town has its secrets, Agent, but things like this don't happen here. I found the body. It was wrapped in plastic.
You see, this town, it's not like other places. The owls aren't what they seem, and the coffee, well, it's got secrets too.
It is a damn fine cup of joe.
You're looking in all the wrong places, Agent. You need to be in the woods, talking to the owls.
There's a cabin out there, a black lodge. Never go in it, promise me.
You're gonna want to see what's on this, Agent. It's creepy.
Well, I think I've just solved the case.
Do you have any chewing gum?
So yeah, that is pretty good. To note, all of the clips there were generated in Veo 3 fast, although I did take it through a Topaz upscale. That's just kind of par for the course. So now let's take an A/B look at fast mode versus, well, they call it quality, I just call it the Big Daddy mode. So kicking off with this Fallout-inspired prompt, let's take a look at Veo 3 Big Daddy. Overall, pretty solid output. There is a bit of a stutter step on our female character here, or maybe she just tripped on a vine. To note, I did also prompt for dialogue here. We did not get dialogue. I'd say there's it's usually around a 25% chance of failure on dialogue when you prompt for it in Veo 3, at least that's what I've been noticing. And then, a 25% chance you might get subtitles as well. Now, taking a look at the exact same prompt run in Veo 3 fast, and I think you're going to be kind of surprised by this.
We need to be careful in here. Could be bandits or worse.
Always is. Keep your eyes open.
Aside from the obvious thing, which we did get our dialogue this time around, the other sort of really surprising thing was that these two characters across both Veo 3 quality and Veo 3 fast, I mean, they remain pretty consistent, down to the fact that both characters have the same vault numbers. That was something I did not prompt for. Ultimately, I do think the fast model is just the normal model, albeit without one or two final rendering passes. In terms of prompt accuracy, I mean, the fast mode does get in pretty much everything that we ask for from the normal version. Take, for example, this Bond-inspired output.
A little something extra for your wrist, Bond, if you need to make a quick exit. And if I don't?
So obviously, quality does look pretty good, although we did get the subtitles there, and it did miss out on the punchline. Here it is in fast.
A little something extra for your wrist, Bond, if you need to make a quick exit. And if I don't? Then you've simply got excellent taste in timepieces.
Dry British humor from Q. Gotta love that guy. So beyond the subtitles and the stepped on joke in the quality mode, actually, I just kind of prefer the turbo output here, just in terms of framing, camera movement, and the fact that our Bond there kind of looks a little bit more on the Michael Fassbender side. My initial thoughts while testing out Veo 3 fast was that, since it retains so much of the prompt coherence, that it would make for a really good sketch pad to test out your prompts before bumping them up to, Veo 3 Big Daddy. That said, as I continued to A/B, again, with the same prompts, I tended to start gravitating towards the fast outputs. Take, for example, this kind of Game of Thrones-inspired scene.
The scouts confirm it, Your Grace. The frost giants press further south than ever before.
This changes everything.
Don't let that guy write titles for my thumbnails.
Yeah, this makes Apple look bad.
I've got Steve Kovac, our reporter, who's been on site all day, Wedbush analyst Dan I.
Google's releasing cool shit. What's up with Apple?
Ives is here with me as well.
They're just going to be a hardware company?
Take into account everything that happened today, and we discuss what it means for the stock, which has dramatically underperformed some of its Mag 7 mates year to date. I think you could say, if you take a look at some of the performance, their Apple shares have been down about 18 or 19% year to date, while many of the other stocks have done quite well. As this event, Steve, was unfolding, you talked about very minor AI features.
Right.
That's how you described it. So what do you think the great takeaway is from this event here today?
Yeah, going in, I mean, the bar was on the floor, right, Scott? They just had to not trip over it. No one really expected a ton of things. The vibe was quite muted. Kif Leswing, our colleague from CNBC.com, he was actually in the keynote and with the crowd, and he said he's never been to an Apple event this muted. Usually you hear a lot more cheers and things like that going on. Didn't get a lot of that this time. I think there are some cheers for the karaoke app, I guess. But when it comes to artificial intelligence and when it comes to the AI stuff that our audience really wants to know what Apple's next step in that is, they got some minor things. Live translation, pretty cool. Nothing we haven't seen from Meta or Google or OpenAI. There's this workout buddy that can kind of intelligently coach you as you're doing your workouts. Okay. The real question is, do you think any of that stuff is going to sell more iPhones? Are people who are using 14 or earlier iPhone that need to upgrade to get these Apple Intelligence features that are announced today, not a lot compelling there. They did mention Siri at the very top and how they missed on that and how they need a little bit more time to get that going. That's the one everyone's waiting for. And they did tease there'll be more to share perhaps later this year on that. But until we get more details on that, I mean, this was really muted. And if you're hoping for some surprise AI announcement, you did not get that. And now we just kind of spin it forward and wait till September for the new iPhones. Maybe they can show us something cool and innovative there on the hardware side that'll get people excited. But right now, you're not seeing a ton of excitement with this.
You, Dan Ives, are, I think, by far the most bullish analyst on Wall Street as it relates to Apple. You graded this today a B. Why so?
I mean, look, last year, I mean, they were in a left lane of Ferrari going 95 miles an hour with the updates, AI, everything they're doing on Apple Intelligence. This time, it was 45 miles an hour in that right lane. I mean, I'd say it's B because they played it very safe to the vest. If you really look at how they navigated, not really announcing any sort of major announcements, some in terms of from an AI perspective. Scott, my view is, I think, look, they got 6 to 9 months to figure this out. They could be forced into M&A for a company that historically has not done acquisitions. But I do believe investors, they get it that they got to be safe here. But they need, as a big tech player, this is their time.
I think what's clear, too, though, is that Apple doesn't necessarily care what the analyst community thinks about it. It doesn't care what the investor community necessarily thinks about it. It's on its own timeline, and it's going to stick to its own time frame over anybody else's, and that was underscored, if nothing else, today.
The one thing I'd just say is that they might not care investors, what they care what developers think about. And I think the reality is that developers, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, you're competing. It's a Game of Thrones battle for developers. So I think that is something where clock's ticking in terms of from a developer perspective, because they control the consumer AI ecosystem. No one doubts that. But you got to give developers the actual framework when it comes to AI. I think that's the biggest thing that they got.
Exactly. And to piggyback on that, there was not a lot of developer-y stuff in here to get them excited. There were some things, yes, but this idea that they can tap into the Apple LLM instead of using a different LLM, the details were a little scarce. Now, this event goes on all week, Scott, so there will be classes and sessions. The developers can get their hands on it, but I did not see anything in that keynote where they really made the case saying, use our AI tools over the other guys. They did not make a compelling argument why theirs is better, why theirs is the better version that they should be developing on. Maybe they share that later this week with the developers in those class sessions, but they didn't show it today.
Whereas last year was in New Year's Eve, Times Square, fireworks everywhere. This time, it was kind of a quiet clap.